To me, that part, this is just the industry talking to itself. Like, what a way to call an industry irrelevant without saying the word irrelevant, right?
Welcome to the Ankler Podcast. It's Thursday, June 19th, and I'm Elaine Lowe, author of the series Business Newsletter. We've got a special edition of the pod this week. The Ankler goes to Cannes Lion, or at least some of us are at Cannes, not you and me, Sean, right?
Are we not? Where's our yacht, Elaine? We need a pod yacht. Here we go. Come on.
That would be nice.
Pod.
There's an idea. We should sell that.
I think we got to work on that.
Wouldn't you all like to hear this pod live from a yacht off the south of France? Let's make it happen.
Sipping rosé with music in the background. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, the Wake Up's Sean McNulty and I are in the good old US of A, but Ankler editor-in-chief Janice Min and like and subscribe author Natalie Jarvie are on the French Riviera, and later they're going to tell us more about Janice's lively onstage conversation with YouTube CEO Neil Mohan and the fighting words he had for Netflix's Ted Sarandos. Plus, Natalie's panels with Jake Shane and Josh Richards, and how this was the year of creators taking over the Croisette. So you and I, we may be far away from the yacht parties, Sean, but the Cannes Lion news, it's still making a big impact in our world stateside, particularly Amazon, right? Which is making some big moves in the ad business.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Kind of some big things. So they made two deals this week, one with Disney and one with Roku, which are two of the biggest, certainly, streaming ad providers out there in the streaming land there. So it involves something called programmatic advertising. So Amazon has a thing called the DSP. I'm just going to break down some terms for you. We'll move past
my eyes
fast.
are trying steadfastly not to glaze over right now.
Yeah, don't hit pause in the pod or fast forward in the pod real fast, real fast. Anyway, Amazon DSP, it's a place, it's an exchange, Elaine, where you can kind of go online and you can buy ads on Amazon Prime Video or on other Amazon properties. It's an ad exchange.
It's like a marketplace.
If you're an ad buyer, you go there. If you're an AI bot, you'll probably go to this thing too at some point and buy ads for your clients or whatever it might be. You can buy men 1834 who watch XYZ or bought these products on Amazon.
That sounds like a different kind of marketplace, John.
I forget exactly the audience. Yeah, exactly. So this is to buy demographics, Elaine. We are buying people to send advertisers to, not people. And so you can do that across Amazon. And what they did was made deals with Disney and Roku so that when you're on this Amazon DSP, you can also buy ads on Disney Plus, on Hulu shows, and on the Roku channel across all their inventory. So kind of increasing the one-stop shopping effect here. So, I mean, who wants to do more work, Elaine, right? If I'm already going to Amazon, which obviously has a huge market share for advertisers, as a place to reach audiences, for Disney and Roku to then say, all right, well, we can also buy these things. And it helps Amazon move more products. And in theory, Disney and Roku reduce some friction there, Elaine.
But this is a big deal because something like this hasn't been done before, right? Especially like a Disney and an Amazon teaming up. Break it down in Marvel terms for me. Is this like when Magneto and Professor X team up to fight the other bad guy?
Actually, if there's a Marvel analogy to get, X-Men's your best bet with me, because I have seen most of those movies in my life. The rest of the Marvel universe will be out. Yeah, it's a bit of breaking down the wall. We're breaking down the walls, Elaine. The fiefdoms of Hollywood are coming down a little bit. Where obviously you can in the channels business at Amazon, Disney doesn't sell their channels on Amazon, their Disney Plus and Amazon and Hulu on Amazon channels, but they have this agreement. Maybe they will lead to this where you can subscribe to Disney Plus via Amazon channels. You can't do that now, but famously Apple TV Plus and Amazon made a deal earlier this year, so Apple TV Plus is available now. So these walls of enemies are kind of like, hey, we need to work together to collab and, kind of find ways to up our business over here. But I will say in the ad business, Elaine, it is interesting because at this very same time that Amazon was working with Disney, Amazon is now going to flood the zone even more with more ads on Amazon Prime Video.
They're doubling their ad breaks, aren't they? Wasn't it Ad Week that broke this news earlier?
Yep.
They're doubling it to 4 to 6 minutes per hour, up from 2.5 to 3 minutes per hour, which I mean by old school broadcast TV standards,
crazy.
That's fine, right? That's still 1, maybe 2 regular ad breaks on broadcast TV.
Right, exactly. This is during an hour. This is for a product that launched just 18 months ago. Amazon didn't even have ads until, literally 18 months ago, and they're already doubling the ad or almost doubling the ad inventory on there. But the thing that's interesting to note here is that when Amazon did that last year, every studios on earnings calls were kind of saying an unnamed competitor has flooded the market with ad inventory, which lowered the rates they could charge for ads because there was so much inventory. When you're a buyer, if there's more inventory, obviously it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. And now they're adding more to that while also making deals with these guys to like, all right, that's kind of maybe not can't beat them, join them to a degree. It's it's interesting.
I mean, so like this is good for a Disney, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that you'll move more ad inventory. You are at a place where advertisers are already at. You're with Amazon, is one of the largest, sources of advertising just in general, not just in video streaming, in the business, not Meta or Google, but certainly, and they're growing that business very big percentages every year, Elaine. So it's growing by leaps and bounds there. But it also just causes like my brain to go a little, big picture. Sometimes I go a little big picture in the wake up, like, let's see what's actually going on here. Let's take a step back here. And it's almost, Amazon has really become entrenched in the DNA of Hollywood's business. I would say arguably far more than Netflix or YouTube or certainly Apple at this point. Like so you have sports, you have NFL, NBA, they're airing NASCAR races now. They have a weekly WNBA showcase. They have Yankee games they air in the summertime. And they're one of the top candidates for the MLB package, which comes up in 2028. Netflix has Christmas Day football and WWE. It's like, they've come for sports big time. That is a package which would rival a NBCU or anybody else, in the major players in sports. Certainly,
yeah, they're not backing away from that, as we saw at Upfronts.
They keep going. Yeah, it's a big part of their DNA now, which was traditionally a studio linear TV product. Right now, it's at Amazon. Theatrical movies we've talked about here in the podcast, going to about 15 movies a year. As of next year, that includes about $1 billion of marketing spend, an executive revealed
So
last
basically,
week.
this argument here that a lot of people trot out where they're like, oh, Apple and Amazon, for them, they are housed under these massive businesses.
Yeah.
It's just a line item, which I know we've talked about here on the pod, but not so much now. I mean, I think Apple probably now is like the one that's still a lingering question mark, even though Tim Cook had told Variety a little while ago that he's like, no, this is like a real business. We're not just here to sell more iPhones. But Amazon definitely in a real show don't tell way is entrenching itself in the legacy business.
Across all, not just, then there's just Amazon Prime Video Regular, which obviously they're still doing a lot of TV series and very, very high at the upfronts this year. They had a very robust lineup of original content there. So they're doing that. The channels business, which I mentioned, so you can subscribe to other, to Stars, to Max, to Paramount Plus via Amazon. Again, when you zoom out here at Amazon, and that's why I bring up, to round out our little narrative here, Lane, why I bring up this, DSP talk and programmatic advertising. It's just like, it's just another, inroad into the business of the studios that we hold so dear.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Our friends at Netflix were no slouch this week.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Speaking of streamers and legacy media, right? I mean, like Netflix also making some big deal news at Cannes Lion this week. A carriage deal with France's TF1 broadcaster. So, expect to see French live and on-demand programming from that French broadcaster on Netflix starting next summer in 2026.
Yeah, about a year from now. So, again, not like TF1 fans, maybe in Hollywood, whatever it might be, but again, what does Netflix have? Netflix has heft. They are, again, cable. There are more subscribers to Netflix in the US than there are cable bundle subscribers by a margin at this point. Netflix is what everybody has.
And the streaming technology to back it up too.
On top of everything else, sure. So when you have scale like that, and in France, I believe they're the number one streamer. I'm not quite sure, but I think obviously they have huge scale.
We were all Googling TF1 this week.
We were all looking at our French numbers to find out. Yeah, exactly. They have a few other Canal Plus and things like that. But still, huge scale. So what is TF1? They're looking to plan their digital future. How do we reach, the audiences in this space? Chose to, partner with Netflix as their, as a home for their programming. So, it raises some questions. It's just something new that Netflix is doing here that they, again, weren't doing before. Could you see them adding on other channels and other places? Is this it's kind of a test for them? They are a company who iterates, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. This will be a bellwether for what comes next, right? And I mean, with Netflix, it's like they dip a toe in and the whole industry sounds an alarm. Yeah. I mean, we saw that when they started doing some live programming. We saw that with the WWE deal. So in a way, it may just be a French broadcaster, but who knows what's to come next?
It could be a bust or it could be a huge thing. But, they're a company who's just willing to, make those changes. There's nothing, they don't have like things that are just like, we don't do that kind of thing. It's like, so there's somebody who wants to do business. Let's try it out. And in a market that's important, but it's not 40% of their revenue like the US. So again, they can kind of test this out and iterate and see how it goes. And if it goes great, come 2027, who knows what's going to happen, Elaine. So
if you live and work in LA or New York in one of these traditional legacy businesses, I mean, like, what does this mean for you, really? What do you think? I mean, like, what's the thing to keep an eye on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's, in a sense of, it's just the things that we've been doing are just shifting. So it's not like we're not doing them anymore. It's just that
we're doing this and.
Yeah, but it's just that it's now Amazon doing it. And there's a question of, or Netflix in that matter, so again, a lot of distrust going on. Amazon AI is a huge, huge part. Andy Jassy got a quote that was picked up everywhere this week about AI reducing their workforce this week. So, there are just these other strings that come with a company like Amazon. So when they get more entrenched in your business, it's like, this looks fine.
Raises some eyebrows.
Can you trust, that this won't totally just put a lot of people out of work eventually in some regard? They've not indicated that. I'm just for the record about that. So there's a little unease about it. But again, this is ad buying. This is pay TV, essentially the channels business. These are old as dirt, kind of businesses that are still under Amazon. So the jobs they're still there. It's just a little bit of that distrust to it. It's unease. It's new players. You don't know how they're going to execute and things like that, Elaine. So it's not like we're doing this and shutting this down or thing. TF1 is a broadcaster. They're finding a new life, on Netflix. That's great for, that business. Will Netflix then bid against the things that TF1 has in 2, 3, 4 years down the line once they see what's so popular on TF1? That could be a question for TF1 at that point. So that's kind of, I think, the curious observation here, Elaine. What it means for jobs and things that, that's less of a concern off the bat here, but definitely a change in where the money's going. The money, that's a lot more money going into the Amazon, DSP through that, and they're going to get a cut. I'm sure that's how that works of selling these ads on other platforms. So again, a revenue generating thing and data, getting access to what people are watching.
And yes, Hollywood loves its data, and it's going to have so much more access now.
But it still won't tell us, Elaine. So that's the net for you and me is not much here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, always interesting to see what Netflix is doing on a global scale.
Yes.
And, bottom line, whether it's ad tech or sports or foreign broadcast deals, I mean, both of these companies, Amazon and Netflix, they're continuing to inch their way to an even bigger share of the business across all parts of the Hollywood machine. So we're going to have to keep our eye on that. So make sure you keep listening to us over here at The Ankler as we chronicle these exciting, interesting, weird days in Hollywood. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Janice Min and Natalie Jarvie live on the French Riviera. Sean, you will not be back here for this second segment because you are in New York.
I am. I'll go take a boat to Jersey tomorrow. So you know what? I'll be just fine. Okay.
Just fine.
How about
Same
that?
thing.
Yeah, I have my boat.
Water,
thank you. That's
same
fine.
deal.
All
okay.
Good. All right.
Well, good seeing you, Sean. And we'll be right back after the break with Janice and Natalie.
Hi, I'm Eric Barmack, and I'm a working producer, and I write the Real AI newsletter for The Ankler. Real AI is your destination to understand the truth about AI and entertainment, who's using it, how they're using it, and the technological change already here in the industry. I care about AI because it's changed the way I run my own business and even pitch and sell shows. I've used AI for script coverage, to help my team brainstorm concepts, and even to come up with pitch decks. Real AI will also tell you more about the fast-moving technology the studios and streamers are tracking and how that will impact your job both today and tomorrow. I believe being informed is the only way to face the new frontier right here at our doorstep, which I believe can help foster the best in our human creativity, something that can never be replaced. Real AI comes out every other Tuesday as part of a paid subscription to The Ankler, so please join me by subscribing at theankler.com today.
Welcome back to the Ankler Podcast. I'm Elaine Lowe, and I'm joined now by Ankler Editor-in-Chief Janice Min and Like and Subscribe author Natalie Jarvie, directly from the French Riviera, where they've been at Cannes Lion all week. Tell me, guys, how's life on the Croisette?
It is so busy here and so hot, and you would not believe how everybody here. It's like Los Angeles and New York all convened within like half a mile and is wearing linen with broken air conditioning, dying for ice. But I think the real story here, and Natalie is the best traveling companion to be here, is that the world has gone creator crazy. And I think in previous years of Cannes Lion, this is my first time, you would walk down the Croisette and you might see famous TV stars or film stars. But this week, it is all creators all the time and athletes.
Wow.
And so, like, if
okay.
that's not the story of where Hollywood is going, I don't know what is.
So less Tom Cruise, more Jake Paul. Is that what we're thinking here? Cannes Lion this year?
In the case of Jake's, I think it's Jake Shane, who Natalie interviewed on stage here.
He's been everywhere. I interviewed him. He was at Spotify. He's been the man of the week.
Well, also, so Natalie interviewed Jake Shane and she interviewed Josh Richards, who are huge figures in the world of creators. And at both sessions, there were groups of college girls who showed up, and I think it was a group of University of Alabama.
Oh my
girls.
gosh,
So it
Georgia.
was like
At Cannes.
Georgia. Sorry, I thought it was like the Bama Rush thing going on. But
They had that vibe for sure. I ended up talking to them after the Josh Richards panel today. They're from the University of Georgia. It's like a semester abroad for them. So they actually came with a group of professors, and they get to, tack on some time before and after the festival as well to do some additional studying, vacationing.
going to the
Oh my
beach.
gosh. So they like embedded this into their plans.
Yes, and they were, they came to all the creator sessions, and they were so sweet and
They're
wonderful.
so sweet.
And really enthusiastic about what they were learning. I mean, they were fascinated by the businesses that these creators are building off the back of all of the likes and views that they're getting on these social media platforms. They really had no idea that creators were building these kind of like big media businesses. So, it was nice to be able to like teach them something and tell them about, this world and perhaps influence what they do in the future, what kinds of careers they find themselves in going forward.
Well, I think the big number here, Elaine, is WPP, the big legacy ad agency, that they released a study, I think just last week, saying that there will be $185 billion going into creator economy, like advertising in the creator economy this year. And that is the first time it will surpass advertising against traditional entertainment.
Oh, that's insane.
It's insane, right? And so then you have all these, I mean, you might as well call this like, Cannes Lion Tech, because it's all tech brands here, right? And they're trying, so it's basically this like huge speed dating week where creators are matchmaking with brands and vice versa. And, everyone's trying to get their piece of this.
Well, speaking of creators and big brands, you had a really lively conversation with YouTube CEO Neil Mohan, Janice. Now, I want to set the scene a little bit here. Like right out of the gate, you asked him a question about Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos, who had recently said that, quote, YouTube is a platform focused on killing time and Netflix is in the spending time business, which are fighting words if I've ever heard one. And it kind of sounds like a dig. And you asked Neil about this on stage. So let's hear what he said.
I spend very little time thinking about those types of quotes and all of my time focused on what's going to make our creators successful. Who am I to say what's spending time, engaging time, quality time, killing time? I think that's frankly just the industry just kind of talking to itself. It's all of us as consumers, the 2 billion people that come to YouTube every single day. We get to decide how to spend our time. And increasingly, more and more of them are spending it with the amazing creators on YouTube.
Okay, so Janice, what was your take on his response?
Well, I mean, I think isn't that being insulting back without being insulting, without saying the insult? I feel like he was like, oh, so you're disrespecting the audience because I'm not disrespecting the audience. So I think he was being very professional in his answer, but we'll get to something a little later. He was being very professional in his answer, but it clearly annoyed him, right?
Yeah.
It's annoying.
I mean, the part where he was like, I think that's frankly just the industry kind of talking to itself. Like on paper, it kind of sums up like, oh, this is all of you talking inside your little bubble while outside there's this massive industry that's going while you're all just thinking that you're competing with each other. I mean, Natalie, you covered the creator space at length. What did you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that part, this is just the industry talking to itself. Like, what a way to call an industry irrelevant without saying the word irrelevant, right? I mean, the truth is that YouTube is such a powerhouse that Netflix is looking for a fight that YouTube isn't fighting. And that's just so clear in these numbers and so clear in Neil's response. And, he did eventually kind of talk about the fact that, yes, creators are going to go out and they're going to do deals with, film studios, TV studios, they're going to explore Hollywood. But he made the point that on YouTube, creators own their videos. And that gives them a lot of power over what they do with their videos and where they take them, and that they can absolutely go license them to Netflix, like we've seen some of these creators do. And that's part of the benefit of working with YouTube. And that ownership piece, that came up in my conversation with Josh Richards today as well. I think that's really key to why YouTube, continues to win this battle, is they have the eyeballs, and it's where creators know they can go to, own the audience.
Elaine, I think you should point out, though, like what was said on the last Netflix earnings calls, I think plural, and also at their upfront. It's like they are not, they feel like they won the traditional streaming wars here,
Sure.
right? And so they are now like, oh, if we want to get bigger, let's be the next bigger thing. Isn't that it?
Yeah, it kind of is. And Reed Hastings has famously said before that one of Netflix's major competitors is sleep, right? And he said that a long time ago. He's aware that this is what the attention economy is. It's not just what you're looking at on your little screen here or your larger screen over there. It's everything. But, Natalie, how much do you think creators even care about a feud like this? Like, do you think they're looking at a Neil Mohan and a Ted Sarandos exchanging words like this? Do they even care, or is this sort of above their pay grade?
I don't think that they're spending their time worrying about it. They're going to be on YouTube if that's where they've built their home, and they're going to go do a deal with Netflix or do a deal with Amazon in the case of Mr. Beast, and that's going to serve them. Ultimately, they don't really care about the infighting between all these different platforms because they've built these businesses that kind of can withstand some of that. Now, sure, they're still reliant on these platforms, and we've seen this with, the whatever's going to happen with TikTok. They don't want these platforms to go away, but they own their audience and can take that audience kind of wherever they choose to go.
So, Natalie, we had this lunch today. We hosted a lunch with Meta at the Hotel du Cap, and it was this really lovely outdoors lunch on the patio at the restaurant, probably about 30 creators, 25, 30 creators. But they were asking a lot of questions about the business. And so, Elaine, and Natalie, both when Natalie did her conversation with Jake Shane and Paul Wachter, and then also today at lunch, like there was this question of like, what is the top of the pyramid when you've made it as a content creator? And Jake Shane wants to be in Hollywood. He was on Hacks. He talked about how he auditioned for Hacks and how meaningful that was for him. And he grew up loving film, loving TV, and this was a dream. And then everyone else is kind of like, is that still a thing? Do we still want to be doing that?
There's still kind of a legitimizing factor for a lot of these creators, right?
Well, this is the whole thing that's kind of underscoring a lot of this, and why YouTube is here trying to get higher CPMs. So Katie Rich has written about this, about YouTube's Emmy campaign. Natalie has written about for Like and Subscribe, YouTube's Emmy campaign support for like Rhett and Link for Sean Evans. And so that kind of nod of legitimacy makes them suddenly, I think there's this belief that it pushes them, and Neil Mohan talked about this, it pushes you into the prestige lane of CPMs and ad buys. And that's what they want.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, like you said, Neil had talked a little bit about that flow of YouTube content to legacy TV and streaming platforms. And we've seen big success stories like Mr. Beast going over to Amazon for $100 million, or Ms. Rachel and her newfound success on Netflix. Natalie, like, what's your take on how creators sort of see that path? Is it like optional? Yes, it does wind up driving great CPMs back to YouTube, but is Hollywood still like the goal, or is it kind of an optional path right now?
It depends on the creator you're talking to. Like Janice said, Jake Shane wants to go Hollywood. And when I asked him about it, he had a hard time articulating exactly why that is, except that it's something he's always wanted. It's just been a goal of his. And, he's absolutely found success and made money on TikTok and via podcasting. And that's great. But, he has these other ambitions. Now, someone like Josh Richards, who I spoke to as well, he's thinking about it more as like a business opportunity. I can be the solution for Hollywood on how to reach Gen Z. Gen Z isn't watching TV in the same way. They're scrolling on their phones. And so how can I offer a solution to Hollywood? That's just smart business strategy. So they're absolutely thinking about how can we turn, some of these social videos into formats that can then live on YouTube and on TikTok and grow big, but also be adapted into, television and film.
Mm. Any other major takeaways from your time at Cannes? Any talk about AI when you're there?
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to talk about AI. And I think it's kind of that constant conversation about AI. We're going to talk about AI, but we don't really know what we're talking about. But we're just going to talk about
we
it.
know it's coming. We don't know how or when or how strongly.
And it's scary unless you're not scared. And
well, it's interesting. The platforms, YouTube and TikTok, have all kind of pitched AI as tools for creators. Both companies, I went to press briefings that they held where they showed off AI tools and, talked about how much easier this would make it for creators to make videos or integrate, sponsors and brands into their work. I mean, they're very much using AI or pitching AI at least as a productivity tool.
But less of an existential threat the way that traditional Hollywood's seeing it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and I think that there are some conversations that are being elided there, but it was interesting to see what the messaging was. And, specifically in this environment where, they're primarily talking to creators or talking to brands, how AI was being discussed.
That's interesting.
Neil Mohan, well, he did. I think we were the only interview he did. And then he was the keynote speaker today at the official Cannes Lion Festival. And he took the stage and he had a whole part about Google VO and
wait, what's Google VO?
It's like their AI tech that is so crazy. Like, it's a thing you saw a lot of creators posting within the last few weeks, and it's uncanny. It is. And that's where, Elaine, your nightmare,
yeah, I was going to say one new thing to be terrified of.
Well, and it's like, you can turn yourself into a talking, and this was one of the things they demonstrated. You can turn yourself into a talking tiger, and
as one does.
As one does. And, I turned to Natalie in the presentation and I'm like, I don't know. I kind of just want to see real things like that. But clearly they had a creator. Who was it, Natalie, that came up and spoke about it?
Yes, Brandon B., who's a really big creator out of the UK. He's known for doing VFX effects and, kind of crazy stunts and things like that. So it absolutely makes sense that a creator like him, who's already been kind of, manipulating his film to do kind of cool, crazy, outrageous things, would be excited about the use of AI. But to Janice's point, I mean, the thing that we always hear about YouTube, about creators, is, quote, authenticity. I mean, that word gets thrown around so much that it doesn't mean anything anymore.
I told Natalie if I had a nickel for every time someone used the word authenticity here. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, there are questions about how do you make authentic content when it's AI, and how does that change the relationship with the fans? I mean, that's something creators will absolutely have to think about and contend with.
Yeah, I wonder if that's more of a buffer, if that's actually insulating, the creator economy from that AI threat of being able to just use the tools that they want, but knowing that at the end of the day, people want real faces.
I hope so. I mean, because all these creators that are here are talking about how they love being a creator because they can be their authentic selves. They can speak from the heart and, but do you want someone to speak from the heart as an animated tiger? I don't know, right? But, wait, I have to bring up this other thing because Natalie and I also looked at each other when this happened. So there was this moment when Neil Mohan was doing his presentation for YouTube. And then they brought out two creators. They brought out Alex Cooper and Amelia de Maldenberg, who is the Chicken Shop Date creator. And they had a sort of spicy conversation.
Yeah, she basically, in conversation with Amelia de Maldenberg, was asked about the decision to put her video podcast on YouTube. And she talked about how she had done this big, expensive, exclusive deal with Spotify. And when that deal came up, she knew she wanted to go elsewhere, essentially. And, her podcast is still available on Spotify, but the videos are on YouTube now because that's where the audience is.
I couldn't wait to leave them. And I'm dating someone better, right? I mean, it was basically that. So that seemed very pointed.
Tell us how Neil Mohan got in a final dig at Ted Sarandos.
Listen here to what Neil had to say when I asked him what he's watching on TV.
Non-YouTube. Speaking of sports, I saw a documentary. It was on Netflix. So I don't know if I was killing time there or what I was doing, but it was a documentary on the unraveling of Brett Favre. I don't know why I watched it, but as a sports fan, I watched it. And another one I saw, which was actually a great show, is called The Royals on Netflix, which is like this. It's an Indian drama / comedy.
And the audience burst out into laughter. So he
Oh,
got
that's a good zinger.
He got a good final zing in.
Took the high road and then the zinger at the end. All right.
You know, I teed it up for him, basically.
Yeah, gotta get one in. Well, thanks so much for your time, both of you. I hope you're having a lovely time on the French Riviera. I hope you come back with lots more news to share with us. And we'll be able to find the transcript and also stories like audio of your interview with Neil Mohan on theankler.com, right?
On theankler.com, it's in our podcast feed, and it's on YouTube. We were shamed into putting it on YouTube by Neil Mohan. So the video has gone up on YouTube.
How could we not?
Oh my God, exactly.
We got to talk like creators, Janice. That was one of the other big messages here. Every brand has to act like a creator on these platforms. So there we go.
Creating.
Okay, well, let's act like creators here. Listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you're leaving us a great review on wherever you get your podcasts from. And make sure you're following us on all socials at The Ankler. Thanks so much for making the time, Janice and Natalie. Really appreciate it. I'm Elaine Lowe. Thanks for listening.